Hey, welcome. So today, we're going to dive into a piece of tech well, it's less like a safety net and more like the ultimate stunt double for your most important applications. You know, the kind that steps in so flawlessly, the show never ever stops. Look, we all know the feeling, right? That common nightmare for any business, big or small, system failure. An outage isn't just some small inconvenience. No, it's a direct hit to your productivity, to your bottom line, and to your reputation. And when you see studies showing the average cost can be thousands of dollars per minute, you realize the clock is always ticking. Every single second counts. So let's just pause on that for a second. Seriously, think about it. For your organization's most critical system, what is the real cost of it being offline for just 1 second? For a lot of folks, that number is so high, you kind of don't even want to think about it. But, understanding that cost, that's the first step. And that's exactly where this pretty radical solution comes into play. VMware Fault Tolerance, or FT for short. It's built for those situations where even a tiny moment of downtime is just not an option. It doesn't just try to minimize downtime. The whole point is to completely eliminate it. And this right here, this is the core promise. It's not about recovering quickly. It's about not going down in the first place. An instant failover with absolutely zero data loss and zero interruption to your users. Now that's a bold claim, right? So let's get into how it actually pulls this off. The basic idea is actually pretty simple and elegant. For any virtual machine that you really need to protect, Fault Tolerance creates a live, identical twin, a secondary copy, that's running on a totally separate physical server. And this twin isn't just sitting there on standby. Oh no, it's actively mirroring every single thing the primary machine does, moment by moment. Okay, so how does this secondary copy stay so perfectly in sync that it's ready to take over in like a nanosecond? Well, the magic behind it all is a technology called virtual lockstep. So at the very heart of FT is virtual lockstep. It's a really cool technology that makes sure the primary VM and its shadow copy execute the exact same computer instructions at the exact same time. For all intents and purposes, they're like one single entity, just living in two separate places, in perfect sync. And this is where that whole stunt double analogy really comes to life. The primary VM, that's our main actor, it performs some action. Instantly, that exact same instruction is executed by the shadow VM, our stunt double. They are in continuous, perfect sync. So if the primary host suddenly fails, poof, the stunt double is already in motion, finishing the scene without anyone in the audience ever noticing. The takeover is totally, completely invisible. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, I have high availability, or HA. Isn't that basically the same thing? And that's a super common question, but honestly, they are fundamentally different. Not all protection is created equal. Let's go back to our movie set. Think of Fault Tolerance as the stunt double. They're always on set, in full costume, literally running alongside the main actor. If the actor stumbles, the stunt double is already there, taking over the scene. The user experience? It's completely seamless. Now, high availability, that's more like an understudy. They're backstage, ready to go for sure. But if the main actor gets sick, they still need a moment to get their makeup on and read out onto the stage. And that results in a brief service outage while the virtual machine reboots on another server. So if you remember one thing, let it be this. The crucial difference is restart versus resume. High availability gives you a fast restart. Fault tolerance, on the other hand, delivers an instant resume. See the difference? One recovers from a failure, the other makes it so the failure was never even noticed in the first place. Okay, so this level of protection sounds amazing, right? Like something you'd want for every single one of your applications. But, as you can probably guess, this kind of perfection comes at a price. It has a very specific set of requirements and, yeah, some limitations too. Which brings us to the big, obvious question. If this thing is so powerful, why aren't we just using it everywhere? Well, it's because that incredible technology that enables that perfect sync, it demands a very specific environment to work in. Yeah, to get that perfect lockstep sync, your whole environment has to be just right. You need specific CPUs with hardware virtualization support. That's what makes the lockstep process efficient. You also need a really fast, dedicated network. We're talking at least 10 gigabits per second here because you have to handle that constant fire hose of mirroring traffic between the two machines. And of course, you need the right vSphere license and certified hardware to make it all official. And then there are some performance constraints to think about. Now, to be fair, older versions of FFT were pretty limited.
But the newer versions have really expanded support, all the way up to a maximum of 8 virtual CPUs for a protected machine. So this makes it perfect for those incredibly important apps, but maybe not for your biggest, most resource-hungry, massive workloads.
So if we take all those requirements into account, where does fault tolerance really shine? Well, it shines in those scenarios where the cost of even a single second of downtime is just catastrophic. It's for when 0 is the only acceptable number for downtime. We're talking about your crown jewels here, that mission-critical database that powers your entire company, the domain controller that handles every single user logon. If that goes down, nobody's working. Or any of those custom critical business apps that simply cannot fail. Heck, you can even use it to protect your vCenter server itself, making sure your entire virtual world stays up and manageable.
And at the end of the day, that's really the key takeaway. Fault tolerance isn't for every workload. It's a precision tool, like a scalpel, for a very specific, high-stakes problem. It's for those applications that are so fundamental to your operation that the very idea of them stopping is, well, it's just unthinkable. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We all focus so much on backing up our data, and we should. That's absolutely essential. But this technology, it challenges us to think a little differently. Your data might be safe in a backup, sure, but is your operation unbreakable?